Good morning, everybody. Yes, as you see, I have a couple of earbuds in. I'm actually using them as a microphone right now. So, the stories of my demise have been greatly exaggerated. Been a while since I've ended up putting up a video or ended up, you know, doing a coffee, sitting here with a nice cup of joe. So, reason why it's been a while since I've ended up putting up a coffee video is because, well, I ended up getting busy. Um, I've been working on the operating system that I've been challenged to make, and I ended up running into a few hiccups. One hiccup, in fact, ended up being I ran out of room on my hard drive. So I've been, working on that. And I've had, a few personal things that have ended up coming on. So, you know, life sucks, life happens, and life gets in the way sometimes. So here I am, I'm back. Oh. So I have started my summer crop. I ended up starting my summer crop not too long ago. That's another reason why I ended up getting busy. I am going to be growing, I am growing a left-hand seeds specific strain alone this outdoor growing season because, well, I want to. I promised them a while ago that I would end up doing a grow for them. I tried in the summer, and in the summer I just had a whole bunch of problems that ended up going on. So instead of, pardon me, leaving them high and dry, I am going to be doing a huge, huge crop just for them, and because I like it. They ended up sending me the seeds a while ago, and just everything that's been going on in my life ended up really compounding everything with what's going on in the world. So, I ended up putting that to the side until I could end up sorting some things out. So, yeah. So I have two flats specifically of a left-hand seeds cherry pie strain. They're a cherry pie cross that I'm going to be growing. I believe it's cherry pie crossed with black Lebanese. I would have to double check because right now I don't have it in front of me. So I don't know if any of you have missed coffee with Papa Bear or not, but here it is. I've also been working on my website because I ended up having a hacker or hackers that ended up going after my website and shut me down for a bit, and that's fine. Fixed it up myself and got it up and running, and now it's a little bit more secure than ever, I hope. So yeah. Also ended up having a bit of a problem with some of the topics I was covering. Apparently I ended up saying some things that some people seem that they don't like, and that's fine. I can understand that. But another reason why I haven't been on in a while is because I ended up putting a post up about Bill C-21 and about getting some signatures on that, and I ended up being tagged by I'm pretty sure Instagram or by somebody else that ended up saying that I was ushering hate speak. Um, no, I wasn't trying to come off like I was being some hateful bugger or some hateful person. I just don't like the bill. And most people in Canada, um, well, most people in Canada that are responsible gun owners and that, they don't like the bill either because it even targets airsoft, BB, and pellet guns, which to me is kind of ridiculous. Just because they look scary doesn't mean that they are. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's just my opinion about certain things. But, I mean, to give me crap for, trying to have an opinion over, what I'm doing, that's kind of ridiculous because, I mean, it's only about BB and pellet guns and airsoft, really. And yes, I have one of the internet's favorite cats right here. But the little bear. And I have one of the other ones over here, Junior. Yeah. So, anyway, I figured I would end up trying to get some signatures, try to help someone out with their petition to get Bill C-21 and 22 removed from Parliament. And like I said, I ended up being hit for hate speech. So, yeah, apparently the powers that be really don't like it when you end up, I don't know, wanting to have an opinion about what the government's doing, which to me is, kind of wrong. And you know what? It just strengthens my resolve to actually try to, keep going because obviously I struck a chord and there's people that have actually seen it and liked what I ended up writing or doing, and there's people that don't like what I did, and that's fine. That's their opinion. That's their right. And with Instagram, it's their service. And if they feel that that's it, I get a strike. But I don't know. It just kind of seems kind of out there. I mean, really to end up giving somebody a strike against them for wanting to stop a bill from passing is kind of, in my opinion, wrong. It's like YouTube and Facebook and whoever else going after people that are doing something absolutely legal in, their area. I mean, I'm only trying to help people learn how to grow and stuff like that. I'm trying to show different things on how to grow. Trying to sit down and connect with you guys, and I end up getting a strike. Like, what the hell? And meanwhile, here I am. I'm just doing what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. And like I said, I'm getting my outdoor crop ready right now because I want to grow some nice big trees. So, or some nice big fat bushes. Yeah. Hey buddy, you want daddy to do that too, don't you? Mm-hmm. So yeah, the first strain I'm going to be growing is, like I said, a left-hand seeds only strain, cherry pie, crossed with, I think it's black Lebanese. It's actually pretty good, very frosty. And I'm going to be showing you guys this summer how to grow that. Because with my license, I'm allowed to do like 50 plants. So you're going to see some really interesting stuff happening, leading up to the outdoor grow and when the outdoor grow is going on. Hopefully, I will be able to probably do daily videos, if not bi-daily, meaning every other day or so. Because I really want you guys to see what's going on. I have a bunch of stuff planned for when the outdoor grow is going on. I'm going to show you guys how to make some seed sprouted teas, some really, really, really good compost teas, some good soil amendments, how to get stuff sorted out, how to get stuff started, and what you should be keeping out of your household garbage to put into your soil. And really good way to start your composting and all that stuff. So that being said, hopefully if you don't catch me here, you'll catch me on my YouTube channel, because I'm hoping I'm going to be able to do a live, hopefully I'll be able to do live streams on YouTube as well, and get everything going that way too. Just remember, if you want to try to help support what's going on, just head over to https://poppabeardoes.ca and check out what's going on, what I got popping over there. I'm actually coming close to doing the release of Papa Bear Does OS, or Papa Bear OS. Haven't quite just figured out what to call it yet. That's basically what I have going on. Pardon me. I have to admit, when it comes to doing the Papa Bear OS, I ended up forgetting a lot. The reason why I ended up forgetting a lot is because I forgot how hard it can be to make a custom OS. And, I really, really, really have to admit, I appreciate the challenge that a follower ended up giving me about programming it. And to be brutally honest, what I'm doing right now isn't exactly a fully custom OS. What I'm doing is I'm doing a respin of Debian, and as far as I'm concerned, that's the same thing that Ubuntu and Linux Mint, Linux Lite, and a few others that have ended up making their own operating systems and ended up building their own communities around it, have done anyway, and they've just respun Debian. So I am putting my own spin on Debian myself. What I've been trying to do with it is try to have it run on older hardware, so that when it runs on newer hardware, it just works. It just goes right through everything, and everything just works. But I'm going to be throwing in some some applications that are open source, to be brutally honest. I've been trying to jam in stuff like giving people the option of window managers or desktops, KDE, GNOME, XFCE, Mate, if that's what you want to call it. To me, it just looks like it says mate. M-A-T-E, mate, or Mate. How the heck you get that, I don't know. But there's that. I've been trying to cram in as much as I can into the operating system. And that way when, hey Boo Boo Bear, that way when it ends up coming, when I end up having it come out, it ends up having Proton, Stream, it has this, it has that, it has GIMP, it has, Kdenlive, well, Caden Live and a couple other video editors in there too. You know, it's all going to be stuff that I use. So I figured, seeing as how I ended up being challenged by it, I'm going to release it, and I'm going to release the stuff that I end up using for video editing, graphics editing, and just stuff that I do in my spare time if I ever have any. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. But yeah, since I ended up getting that strike about hate speech and stuff like that, I've decided that I'm going to keep going on. So yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't get it, but whatever. So what's up, Boo Boo Bear? How's it hanging? Hopefully you have a nice cup of joe sitting there with you, and hopefully you're having a good day. But that's what I've been up to for the last little while. Well, there you go. So what have you been up to other than not much, Boo Boo Bear? You've been keeping busy, you've been having a good day, you've been trying to have a good day. Are you getting excited because the snow's melting? I know I am. I know I'm getting excited to the point that I want it gone. Well, like I said earlier, I have been working on the Poppa Bear OS. I have 3 flats that I have started of cherry pie crossed with black Lebanese, I think it is. So there's about 27 plants there that I have started. So I've been working on that. Otherwise, like I said, I ended up getting a strike from Instagram about supposed hate speech. About, I believe it was Bill C-21. Oh, it hasn't melted here yet. Because if I were to poke you out my window, you'd be wondering if I live in the Arctic. All kinds of snow here. But, yeah, no, I ended up taking a bit of time off from here and decided, you know what, time to come back and start swinging. Swing for the fences, as they say. So, apparently I also have to try to stay away from controversial topics like Bill C-21 and Bill C-22. Because apparently my opinion equals hate speech. So, yeah. That's what I think. As far as I'm concerned, when it comes to people having hate speech, I try not to do anything that would end up being considered as hate speech. Because really, I'm not a hateful person. There's just certain topics that I end up hating. Such as, what's going on right now. And with Bill C-21 and Bill C-22, it's kind of like a huge... Oh yeah, I am. I'm playing Hugh Hefner today. I am running around in my PJs and my robe. Thank you for noticing. But, to me, Bill C-21 and Bill C-22 are like a huge, gun, we want to know where all the guns are, and it just seems like a huge eugenics project going on. I mean, we have this huge thing that's going on that people are trying to, sweep under the rug. And to me, that's not right. Trying to take away the rights of, law-abiding citizens. to even have the right to be in a sport like airsoft, or to, you know, have the right to bond with someone over learning how to shoot a gun. I live out in the country. So, I ended up learning how to shoot at a young age. And I can remember being um, 9 years old, and my grandfather, he was teaching me how to shoot his Winchester, lever action, whatever you want to call it. But it was an actual Winchester, and it was chambered in 45, or 45 caliber. And like I said, he taught me how to shoot because, we have foxes here, we have wolves every so often, we have a bear that decides to go on Instagram. But no, like, I have very, very fond memories of, shooting a pellet gun with my grandfather, when he was teaching me how to shoot. I have fond memories of, going out and playing paintball with friends of mine. Just go out into the back bush and away you go. Well, yeah, you're right. It is taking away from the enjoyment of, for kids that are in cadets. I mean, it's a good thing you brought that up, because cadets is how kids can get their feet wet to see if they want to go in the military. Cadets isn't like it was when I was a kid. Because before, when I was a kid, I was 13 when I ended up getting into cadets. And, we had full kits that ended up being out and about. We had our combat knife, well, we had our survival knives, we had our packs, all the rest of that stuff. And we'd end up humping it through the bush. And we'd also, go and shoot and everything else. So in my opinion, you're right, it is taking away from the kids and the teenagers that are in cadets. Because, there's nothing that is quite the same as carrying an actual rifle, because, you can end up making all the wooden mock-ups you want. You can use all the airsoft mock-ups you want. But until you are actually carrying the weight of that rifle at that age, in Canada it would be a C7. In the US it would be an M4. So until you have the weight of that rifle, the recoil that you get when you end up pulling that trigger, the sight that you have looking down the barrel into the target, it's just not the same, because you can do all you want, but it doesn't beat having the actual thing, because with the real thing, you actually know that something is going to be coming. When you end up pulling that trigger, there's going to be a loud bang. It's going to kick back. It's probably going to hurt if you're not shouldering it right. You're probably not going to hit the target if you're not lining up the sights right. You don't learn how to shoot properly at all. You don't learn how to do anything. There are Army and Sea Cadets where it teaches you a lot of things, and to see if you want to pursue those careers and keep them out of trouble as well. Yeah, exactly. Nowadays, kids and cadets, they can't even have a book of matches. I can remember being on the range at 14 years old, learning how to fire a rifle. Well, I already knew how to shoot, but I mean, they didn't know that. So as far as they're concerned, I was 14 years old learning how to fire a C7, um, which is a 5.56 or 223 caliber. Um, but at the same time, I also, when I was in cadets, we were learning with FNC 1 and 2s, which are much beefier and they're a much heavier cartridge. But yeah, when it comes to kids and cadets and that, I mean, the government's really screwing around, in my opinion, with a perfectly good organization that was started by the government for the most part, and they're really, really trying hard to really just take everybody's rights away at some point. And that's my opinion. That's not Instagram's. That's probably not Boo Boo Bears. It's just mine. So, I mean, if kids want to go into cadets just to see if, they think that they may like, you know, in air cadets, to see if they like to fly, if they like to, run around in the bush with, proper intent of learning how to survive in the bush and all the rest of that stuff, or Army cadets, where they're, learning how to be a grunt, which isn't a bad thing. That's a good thing, because they get to see what they have either to look forward to, or they have a way to prepare for what's going on. And I'll be honest, with everything I ended up learning, or Sea Cadets, Sea Cadets, I forgot about Sea Cadets, or learning how to drive a boat and, touch something off, I don't know. But I mean, they're just really screwing themselves. Scouts can't even start fires by themselves. Yeah, exactly. Like scouts, cubs, beavers, it's really going to affect everything that a lot of people grew up doing. I mean, you were saying about, boy and girl scouts not being able to start fires without an adult there. It's the same thing in cadets. I mean, cadets, you can't even walk around with a book of matches. They don't teach how to, they're not teaching bushcraft anymore. Like, there's a lot of things I ended up learning when I was a kid, when I was in the Cubs, when I was in cadets, that I ended up carrying over into my adult life. That I ended up learning without, So, in my opinion, everything that's going on, it's really unfortunate. I mean, when it comes to scouts and, when it comes to Scouting Canada and it ends up coming to cadets, that's been going on for years, but, there was still the ability for, the commanding officers, the 2ICs, the Sixers, all the Begiers and Baloos that are out there, that were in charge of their, their respected scouting groups. People that, end up signing their kids up for cadets, and they're expecting to hear about how they're learning how to rappel and how they're learning how to, they're learning bushcraft and survival tactics and stuff like that, and learning how to take care of the equipment in that, like, it's not happening anymore at all. And then it's really a shame, because I mean, if say for example you're in scouts and you decide that you love scouting, and all the rest of that, and you want to end up getting into the military. But before you go into the military, you end up deciding that you're going to go into cadets, and you're sitting there going, we did more in scouting. What the heck? We could do more in scouting. What's going on here? Kind of thing. So, I mean, I've heard this from my nephews, and they've looked at me and said, Uncle Bear, this isn't what you told us about. This, I'm not learning how to rappel. I'm learning how to tie knots. Or, my nephew ended up going into the same squadron that I was in when I was a kid. And, they never once ended up taking the kids out to, go gliding. And he was telling me about how their bush weekends were going, and I just couldn't believe it. And now with this, they still do a minimum, but I mean, in some cases, when it comes to, learning how to handle a knife properly when you're out in the bush. And I don't mean, how to kill someone. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm actually saying is how to use a knife in a survival situation when you're trying to, feather stick a stick, or you're trying to learn how to shave, a piece of wood so that you end up having kindling, so on and so forth. It's that kind of thing that I'm getting at, where like that's where Bill C-21 is really going to end up screwing a lot of people. Like, it's to the point where if, say for example, all the cadets end up getting together in the summer and end up having war games. Can't do that anymore because now even paintball and airsoft are going to be outlawed. Like, what the heck is going on here? It's ridiculous. Well, yeah, they are. But what I'm saying is that my nephew, they never offered the squadron that he was in to even go learn how to glide. And now, whether that's up to the closest base nearby, or it's up to the CO, commanding officer, I don't know anymore, because it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, what's going on here? This is one of Canada's prouder heritages of being able to show the next generation, this is what you're getting into. So, it's that kind of thing that, really kind of bugs me, is that we're showing the next generation of, possible soldiers, or whatever you want to say, to, not know what they're doing until they get in there. And even then, it's just, yeah, right? Oh wow, the one near me, I've seen them in the air. Yeah, well, I have a base that's right near here. Hey, Hagerstown 420, what's up, baby? Like, when it comes to, like having the cadets in the air and all the rest of that stuff, yeah, I used to, look out and I would be able to see, the cadets jumping out of, choppers and stuff like that from my backyard, which is bush. And I'd be able to see cadets flying and all the rest of that stuff. And meanwhile, with everything that's going on, the government's trying to put an end to that. And to me, like I said, that's one of Canada's bigger heritages. You have no idea how many kids ended up joining the military after they were in cadets. because they ended up getting their feet wet, and they ended up saying, like, hey, yeah, I love this. Yeah, okay, I'm getting yelled at, but I'm flying a plane. Or, yeah, I'm getting yelled at, but I get to fire a gun. And I'm learning how to live in the bush. I'm learning how to survive. I'm learning how to help people as well, just in case. Back in, I believe it was 1985, when Barrie, Ontario ended up having a tornado go through, um, the cadets were helping the people of Barrie with, traffic control and security and all the rest of that stuff because of the damage that ended up happening to it. That ended up happening to Barrie. Or when there was that tornado that went through Angus, Ontario, and really did a lot of damage. The cadets were out there too. And they were helping with security and all the rest of that stuff like they should have. But they didn't have the same abilities to end up pointing their finger at a truck and have the truck stop, or have people actually realize that they're there to help the police as well. And meanwhile, now, I mean, something ends up happening and nobody can actually end up doing anything. Like it's ridiculous. I know you used to be able to look out and you'd end up seeing the kids in gliders. If you look up and, there they are, and I know so many people that would end up having the proudest smiles, the biggest smiles from ear to ear, because they know their kid is out there learning something and staying out of trouble. And now the government wants to end that portion of it? Come on. It is sad. It is very sad, it's to the point where you do more in scouts than you do in cadets. And like I said, it's sad. Yeah. So that actually happens. I know that one for a fact because I've been involved in it. I've helped organize stuff like that. And that goes for all elements, land, sea, and air. When it comes to the military working with the cadets to see how their training's going. I was involved in many scenarios like that when I was in cadets, and to be brutally honest, I can't understand why the government doesn't still do that. I mean, it's ridiculous because, like I said, I know for a fact that happens on all elements, or with all elements, and now the government's pulling that away. Like, you don't get the idea that when you're in cadets, in the U.S., when it comes to air cadets, they call it Civil Air Patrol for air cadets, and there's Army cadets and so on and so forth. And there used to be an exchange program that would end up going on between Canada and the U.S., between different corps, different squadrons, so on and so forth. And one squadron would go down to the U.S. while the American squadron would come up. And that doesn't happen anymore. And meanwhile, we're supposed to be, like, partners. And that kind of, I guess you could say that kind of goes on both sides of the border. And right now, yeah, okay, it's a little bit of a scary topic, but still, you're horsing around with one of our prouder heritages when it comes to, people learning how to people learning soldiering, or people learning how to hunt and all the rest of that stuff. As for the eugenics project kind of thing, as far as I'm concerned, You know, it does end up touching on, people with disabilities and stuff like that, but still, it's still something that needs to stop, in my opinion. I know they did have a military co-op, but not sure if they still offer that, because they did offer that when I was in high school. My nephew told me that, I know in my area they had to get, they had to get rid of it because, well, there wasn't too many people that actually wanted to go and be with, the reg force, instead of, not being with them at all. And when I say reg force, I mean, the reg forces, and also the auxiliaries that end up happening, and the reservists. Like, it's ridiculous. And not only that, but in the military now, it's to the point where you pretty well have to buy your own sidearm before you end up getting one. If you end up having to go out into a peacekeeping situation and your rifle is registered to you. Well, I guess that's not going to happen anymore with the gun grab that ended up happening, because you won't be able to have that on City Street at all. You can't go hunting with it or anything. So, it's just one of those things that really kind of tug at my heartstrings. I mean, okay, people end up learning us. The cadets end up learning a very, very small amount. But, I mean, it's nothing like when I was in. I'll tell you that. Because when I was in, we also ended up having DIs, or drill instructors, that would end up treating us like we were in the military. The squadron I was in was actually full of a lot of World War II vets, vets from Korea, just a lot of vets. And as far as they were concerned, if you're going to join, you are going to see what it's like. So yeah, we were doing PT, and we were having boot heels that were in between our shoulder blades if we weren't doing something properly. But still, nowadays it's one of those things of, you have somebody wagging their finger at you, and they end up tossing a potato peeler at you, if you're allowed to even hold a potato peeler, and saying that you're on KP. So, what's going on with that? I can remember when we would end up playing capture the flag, and it was full contact. It wasn't any of this crap of, flag capture the flag, where you end up pulling off somebody's flag off, like flag football. Like, no, that's not what that's about. It's about camouflaging, it's about defending, it's about tactics and stuff like that. You can't do that anymore. And if you wanted to join, as far as I'm concerned, you should have been able to, because you learn a lot of stuff in cadets that you will not learn in school. You end up learning, say for example in air cadets, you end up learning about Otto Lilienthal, and all the rest of that stuff. So, you learn stuff about Canada, and about our heritage, and about our military heritage when you're in cadets. And in most cases, they don't even teach that anymore. It's basically a bunch of garbage compared to what it used to be. I can remember when, we would end up having the Canadian Fitness Challenge. Not when the Canadian Fitness Challenge was going on. I mean, all the time. You know, you ended up having to hit gold in each and every single one for you to continue on. And if you didn't, yeah, you got yelled at, but they also ended up working with you so that you could hit gold or platinum when it came to the Canadian Fitness Challenge. And as for the military co-op, yeah, you know, like as far as I'm concerned, if you want to do the military co-op, and you have the marks for it or whatever, then yeah, go for it. Hey, butt cheese, what's up, baby? But I mean, if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. You know, like I said, you know, cadets and scouts, Canada, you know, no, you're not too late. You know, it's all not what it used to be, and it's going to get worse. You know, like it's getting ridiculous. That's why I want to try to help stop Bill C-21, is because it is going against our heritage. You know, like when it comes to people that live in the country and, you know, bonding with, say, for example, their kids. And they live in a remote area, not just rural, but remote. You know, there's all kinds of other things that you have to watch out for, and one of them specifically is knowing how to handle a gun. Whether it's a pellet gun, a BB gun, whatever. You know, there's been times where I've had, you know, rabid animals that have ended up coming up. And I've had a younger one with me. And I don't carry a gun with me, but I mean, I'm going to put myself between rabid animal and, you know, that little one that's with me. And I'm going to try to, you know, protect that kid. But won't be able to do that now. You know, yeah, on my property I walk around with, you know, a big knife. That's on my property because I live in the middle of the bush. Well, not in the middle of the bush, but I live in a rural area. So I end up using my knife to, you know, clean out brush and all the rest of that stuff from, you know, areas I want to go to in that. Yeah, I know you need one up north. It's ridiculous up north. But still, that's, you know, what C-21 is trying to stop. You know, like, it's ridiculous. I mean, if you're going to live up north, you got to have a gun. Because if you're up around Churchill, well, up around the Canadian Shield, up in up in northern Ontario, and I don't just mean, you know, like Sault Ste. Marie, I mean up around Larder Lake and stuff like that, you know, like you're going to end up having polar bears and stuff like that coming towards you. And as Butt Cheese just said, cougars, yeah. All over Canada, you know, especially out west, you'll end up having cougars all over. And I mean, if you're out in the bush going for a hike and, you know, all of a sudden you end up hearing a growling and you end up reaching back to, you know, grabbing, you know, your gun or your flare gun or whatever to try to scare them off, you're going to end up going, oh no, this is going to hurt. So, yeah. I mean, I've been in situations when I was younger where, well, let me see. I was living out in Manitoba on Peguis Reservation. And I know Huntsville has cougars. But I was living on Peguis Reservation. Yes, I'm half Indian. Deal with it. But, you know, there's times where bears just come out of the middle of nowhere. And they aren't exactly happy to see you. Especially when it comes to, you know, the fish runs that end up happening out there with the salmon and the trout. You know, it can get pretty hairy, especially if you're just out going for a walk in the bush and having a hike and seeing the world. Manitoba has cougars too. It's insane. You have to watch. Native, Indian, I don't care. Just don't call me Aboriginal. I'm not blowing on a goddamn didgeridoo. I'm not from, you know, I'm not from Australia and I don't blow on a didgeridoo. I'm half Indian, half Native, whatever you want to say. Thank you for pointing that out, Boo Boo Bear. I'm pretty sure Butt Cheese knows where I'm coming from. Yeah, exactly. You know, but yeah, I'm half native. But I mean, like, still, you end up having bears are out there still. You end up having Wolverines. Wolverine isn't just a character out of the X-Men. Wolverines are pretty dangerous. Um, but then you also end up having beavers. One of our national animals, the beaver. You have the beaver that ends up making the thing that's in the water. That's called a dam. And sometimes it can actually end up, causing a lot of damage to your property because you end up having flooding when you didn't have flooding before. So, yeah. Well, moose, you don't really have to worry about. Badgers, you kind of do because, they end up getting pretty nasty. And when you end up running into one of them, you better be able to protect yourself pretty quick before it runs at you. Yeah, I know you're being politically correct because of a lot of the snowflakes out there. Yeah, wolves, porcupines. Porcupines, they'll actually shoot you first with their quills. Wolves, on the other hand, they tend to stay away from you for the most part. But I mean, if you have livestock, you're going to be watching out for wolves anyway. Um, but yeah, not only that, but also when it comes to nuisance animals like opossums. They're ugly things, and they can be a big problem too. Trust me. Um, Last growing season at night, I was sitting out there having a fire, and lo and behold, there was this possum that just came out of the middle of nowhere, and it was growling at me. I mean, I had a good fire going, mind you, but still, it ended up coming out of the middle of nowhere, and it was growling at me. It went to attack me, so I booted the damn thing. It still came back. So, I mean, there goes the old wives' tale about, making more noise, right? Moose don't want. No, I know, and yeah, they will. All animals, you have that risk with all animals. Whether you're farming or you're just living out in the country to get away from the city. It's not just moose. I mean, I know moose, they'll uproot trees with their horns, with their antlers. I've seen it. They will, attack a truck, and they will knock the truck over, and you'll end up doing a couple of these and all the rest of that stuff. But I mean, no, even human bears will do that too. It depends on how badly you irritate us. Um, but yeah, with C21 and C22 coming out, you can't do that anymore. Gee, thanks. But yeah, like I said, I've lived in the country all my life for the most part, and with Bill C-21 and C-22, it's just ridiculous, and why I end up being beaten on because some snowflake thinks that I'm doing some sort of hate speech, I have no idea. Oh, you'll just tickle a human bear, huh? Good thing I'm not ticklish, huh? Oh, you've seen me almost get to that point. So don't even go there. I'm not bringing that history up. But yeah, as for tickling the human bear, I'm pretty sure you'll have a hard time with that because I'm not ticklish. But thank you very much for the flirt, Boo Bear. I appreciate it. Hey, butt cheese, am I ticklish? Gotta wait for an answer here. I know you weren't talking about that. You know, I'm not getting into the fact of having to try to protect yourself from other human beings. Boo Boo Bear was wondering if I'm ticklish. That's why I went and said, well, butt cheese. Not everyone's ticklish, my friend. Not everyone. Most, but not everyone. So, you kind of got to watch that. So, that's my rant on Bill C-21 and C-22. Ah, see, told you. But yeah, now I'm going to be focusing on my growing, and I'm going to be focusing on producing more shows on growing, and no one's talking about that one, Selena. No one's talking about that at all. We're trying to keep it clean here, people. But yeah, no, I'm going to be focusing on my growing. Don't worry about it, boo-boo. Anyway, I'm going to be focusing more on my growing. I'm going to be focusing more on showing people, you know, what to do, how to do it, all the rest of that stuff. Oh, that reminds me. I ended up seeing a movie recently. No duh, right? Anyway, you know, I ended up talking about preppers a few videos ago. And I think it's funny as heck. Because the other day I ended up watching a movie called Preppers. And oh my god, it was funny. But it had the right point about what preppers are. Basically, it was a how to be a prepper kind of thing, and where to start, and how to do it, and all the rest of it. But then it ended up taking these two subjects of the movie who wanted to. Yeah, I don't believe in marriage either. Anyway, these two people were looking at what was going on in the world. So they decided that they wanted to become preppers. And I don't mean, you know, like out there preppers, you know, where they're, you know, stockpiling guns and ammo and all the rest of this crap and waiting for the fall of the government. But they do end up getting a couple of handguns in there, and you know, they end up showing these two people, you know, looking at their neighbor across the road, and you know, they never end up talking to this person, and their neighbor is constantly out there playing with his car, you know, great big loud car. Those that have a, you know, gasoline in their veins, they just ended up getting a little bit of a chill. But you know, it ends up showing what these people are doing, the questions that they're asking, the stuff that they're buying, and lo and behold, you know, there ends up being a situation where, you know, they have an outbreak of Ebola in the movie in the US. And people start, getting quarantined and all the rest of it. Starting to sound a little close to home right now. So anyway, there ends up being this. It's not overrated. There's a point that I'm getting at, and the point was actually made in the movie that I've been trying to make for quite a while. And so anyway, these two people end up seeing what's going on across the road, and their neighbor across the road ends up being pulled out by a gang of people, and they end up, having guns pointed to their heads and give us the food, give us the food. And meanwhile, this guy and his wife, they're in their house and they're trying to figure out, how they're going to help, what they're going to do, all the rest of it. So Buddy ends up grabbing some food and walks out his door. The neighbor that has been taken hostage at this point is screaming, we don't have any, like, what do you want? We don't have any food, blah, 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 blah. So Buddy goes walking out. He has a couple of great big cans of soup, he has a jug of water, and he has a bag of rice. And he's going out to, well, the equivalent of 4 heavily armed men at this point. Well, all things considered, having a pistol at this point in the movie would be heavily armed. So that's what these people had. They had a few handguns. Ha ha ha! You're not wrong. So anyway, what ends up happening is, he ends up trying to negotiate with the people that have taken the, people across the road hostage. I have food, let them go, you can have it. One guy ends up being in charge of everything, and he ends up, squeezing off around, and he fires it right through the little bag of rice. He said, "You stay there." And he went and he said, "No, I'm bringing you." Ha ha ha. Only yours. Anyway, he goes and he says, "I'm bringing you the food." So the same guy ends up squeezing off another round. Kaboom! Puts it through the jug of water. "You stay there." Next thing you know, he goes and he says, "No, I'm bringing you this food. You're going to let those people go. I'm going to give you this food." So next thing you know, another person in the group ends up pulling out a gun and points it at him. Then his wife, standing at the threshold of their doorway, ends up pulling out her Beretta and squeezes off around, takes out one guy. Ha ha, yes, and ass. But he goes and he says, "Now, are you going to die for this food? Or are you going to let these people go?" So they end up dropping their guns, and then next thing you know, another neighbor comes out, and then another, and another. And, they're standing there in front of, there's 15 people out there now with guns drawn, pointed at these, these 3 instead of 4 idiots now. And they end up taking off. So, Buddy ends up looking at his neighbor across the road. He goes and he says, "You okay?" And his neighbor goes and says, "Yeah, gee, thanks for helping out, man." So he looks at his neighbor, he goes and he says, "You know what? You would have done the same thing too." And his neighbor ends up giving the most honest answer I have ever heard in a movie. "I don't know if I would." But because this guy and his wife went and stood up against this small gang of people, it ended up bringing the neighborhood together. And, later on in the movie, like 5 minutes later, because it does dissolve and it shows you what's going on, there ends up being a whole bunch of, what looks like a picnic. a huge get together. You know, there's people out there barbecuing, cooking, playing, singing, playing guitar, you know, playing soccer and stuff like that. And meanwhile, next thing you see is at either end of the street and at each corner of the block, you can see how heavily armed they are now. You know, they have Browning 50s and all the rest of the stuff. People are walking around with, you know, hunting rifles and all the rest of it. And at either side, considering it's a block, there's 4 sides, right? There's a sign. Beware, this neighborhood stands together. And then it fades out. That to me is what prepping is all about. It's about taking care of one another. It's about stockpiling and all the rest of that stuff for just in case situations. What is that supposed to be? Is it supposed to be a bunny rabbit? No. But to me, that's what prepping's about. You know, not about, you know, taking over anything or whatever. It's about taking care of your own. That's what I was trying to get at. And the funny thing about it is that this movie came out in 2016. So... Oh, it's a penguin. Okay. I can forgive you for that because I'm a Linux guy and I love tux. If you want to know what that's about, check it out. But, you know, I think that's going to be the end of today's episode. I'll be back in a couple of days. Have coffee with you guys again. Anyway, this is Papa Bear signing off, saying take care of each other. See you in the next one.